The story begins in a village that's been destroyed by powerful monsters, with all humans killed except for a young girl. A boy is also present, witnessing the tragedy. This moment sets them on a path to greatness as they join forces to fight the monsters. The boy kneels and kisses the girl's hand, causing a collar to form around his neck and releasing a surge of energy. To understand the significance of this action, we need to go back to the boy Yuki's school. Yuki and his friends are tasked with cleaning the classroom every morning, but it feels like Yuki is doing all the work while his friends slack off. Yuki is frustrated with his friends for not helping and sees them as unreliable. Yuki is excellent at cleaning, and his friends wouldn't be much help even if they joined in. The girls at the school often arrive late, and Yuki and the other boys can't complain about it because girls in this world have special powers that make them more valuable to society. As a result, boys are considered second-class citizens and end up doing undesirable tasks. One of Yuki's friends arrives with a torn shirt button, but Yuki is prepared with a sewing kit. Yuki skillfully sews the button back on at high speed, impressing his friends. However, Yuki doesn't think this will help him get a girlfriend, so he doesn't boast about it. His friends ask where he learned such skills, and Yuki reveals that his older sister taught him. She encouraged him to learn cooking, cleaning, and other skills, as boys in their world don't have special powers and need to be self-reliant if they want good wives. Yuki shares that if he didn't learn something or didn't do it well enough, his sister would put him in a headlock until he got it right. One of Yuki's friends sympathizes with the challenges Yuki faced, but the other friend is puzzled because he heard something terrible happen to Yuki's sister. Yuki avoids discussing the topic and shifts the conversation to focus on their class for the day. In the evening, Yuki leaves a job fair feeling down because he realizes he'll have to start a career soon. He's worried that he might have to work hard for the rest of his life. While walking, he sees a signboard listing the number of accidents that happened this month due to Mato incident. More than 30 people lost their lives in these incidents, but Yuki doesn't pay much attention to it. Instead, he's focused on the idea of having a normal job and living a regular life. However, he doesn't want to be just an ordinary person in this world. He hopes there's something he can do to make a difference. Yuki's wish to not be ordinary comes true sooner than he expected. He notices that the environment around him becomes extremely foggy, making it hard to see. This reminds him of an incident that happened to his sister. He realizes he's been pulled into one of these Mato incidents. A powerful gust of wind blows through the area, clearing the dense fog and revealing a dark world where Yuki now finds himself. Trying to stay calm, Yuki uses his AI assistant to seek advice. He receives information about the nature of these Mato events. They involve an alternate dimension accessible through gateways called doors. The problem is that these doors open randomly all over Japan, and many people accidentally enter them, like Yuki did. Countless casualties have occurred due to these accidental crossovers or the creatures from this dimension entering Japan. The only advice the AI can offer Yuki is to wait for rescue by the Demon Defense Corps. In this strange and dangerous dimension, Yuki is left with little choice but to hope for help to arrive. Yuki initially considers staying where he is as advised, but quickly realizes he's in danger. Right where he entered this world, a creature called a Shuuki was lurking underground, waiting for him to land. Staying put is no longer an option as the Shuuki tries to kill Yuki with a powerful attack. He narrowly escapes the attack, but he loses his internet connection on his phone, leaving him on his own. He runs away from the Shuuki, but he soon reaches a dead end. The Shuuki calls in more of its kind to attack Yuki, and with death looming, Yuki looks for anything to defend himself. He grabs a rock, but it only angers the Shuuki further, and it lunges at him. Yuki believes his fate is sealed, destined to become just another casualty in this dangerous dimension. However, before he becomes a statistic, another, even more terrifying monster arrives to save him. Yuki notices a person riding on the back of this new monster, and she assures him that she's here to protect him from the vile Shuuki. She unsheathes her sword with a powerful gust of wind and swiftly dispatches the Shuuki attacking them, leaving them in a pile of blue flames. The monster she rode in on is torn apart by the remaining Shuuki, but she regroups with Yuki to keep him safe. She introduces herself as Commander Kyouka Uzen and tells Yuki to stay behind her if he wants to survive. The situation becomes more dangerous, so they need to make a quick escape. Kyouka uses a fallen Shuuki, turning it into her servant by putting chains around its neck. She instructs Yuki to get on it so they can flee from the pursuing Shuuki. As they escape, the team fires shots at the pursuing creatures. The rest of Kyouka's team arrives to give their report. They inform her that there are no signs of any survivors in the area. She orders them to expand the search radius in case they miss someone. He uses her powers to scan the area but doesn't find any people. Instead, she discovers that they are being surrounded by more Shuuki. She relays this information to Kyouka, who orders her team to deal with the incoming Shuuki while she ensures Yuki's safety. Meanwhile, Kyouka's team springs into action. She transforms her arm into a machine gun and starts shooting down the Shuuki to create an escape route for Kyouka. Another team member grows to an enormous size to crush some Shuuki. We learn that the women who gain powers from the peaches exclusive to the Mato are the best when it comes to combat skills. After dealing with the swarm of Shuuki, they regroup in their jeep to check on the little boy they found in the Mato. Mii's ability helped them locate the boy in time. However, they are all exhausted from their efforts. They wonder if Kyouka has safely returned to the dorms, but they trust her skills as a commander and believe she's fine. They still have one more location to check before heading home since they didn't find any more survivors. But the little boy they saved wakes up and panics because he doesn't see his big sister with them. Meanwhile, on Yuki's end, they come across the sister of the little boy, who is under attack by a horde of Shuuki. Yuki wastes no time in jumping down to rescue her from the situation. However, the Shuuki that she had turned into her servant is too slow to escape the horde, and they get surrounded. Kyouka fends off the Shuuki and erects a basic barrier to keep them at bay. She reassures Yuki and the girl not to panic, but one Shuuki cracks the barrier, causing concern. Kyouka thinks that it wouldn't matter if she died here if she were alone, but she has people to protect, so giving up is not an option. Among those who received abilities from the fruit of this dimension, she knows her ability is considered less impressive. However, that won't stop her from pursuing her dream of becoming the Supreme Commander. Given the dire situation, Kyouka decides to take drastic measures and try out her ability on Yuki, as there is no other option. She tells him there is something important she needs him to do to ensure their survival in this situation. Yuki was eager to help, but his excitement faded when he learned he would become Kyouka's slave. Kyouka asked a little girl to close her eyes, explaining that enhanced strength could help them escape, but it required using her ability on Yuki. She reluctantly stretched out her hand, and when Yuki licked it, he transformed into a powerful monster, gaining the strength needed to easily defeat the approaching Shuuki creatures. Kyouka was thrilled to see her ability working well. She placed the little girl on Yuki's back, and with his newfound power, they safely reached the rest of the team, who took the girl to safety. However, the remaining Shuuki creatures combined into one massive Shuuki. Kyouka mounted Yuki again and ordered him to defeat this final Shuuki. Together, they easily defeated it with their combined strength. Once the battle was over, Kyouka's ability wore off, and Yuki returned to his original form. Kyouka's teammates arrived to check on them, but Kyouka asked for some time to talk with Yuki privately. She was surprised by his newfound power, but wanted to address a downside of her ability. She explained that as the master, she had to reward the slave with something appropriate for their work each time. Since Yuki had never experienced intimacy, he considered a kiss a suitable reward. She told Yuki he had worked hard and offered him another kiss if he wanted it. Yuki felt too embarrassed and declined, accidentally knocking off Kyouka's hat in the process. Both were flushed with embarrassment, as they hadn't expected this situation. Kyouka had previously rewarded her Shuuki slaves with pork slices, but they were not as cultured as Yuki. Despite her embarrassment, Kyouka's body compelled her to continue kissing Yuki until he was satisfied with his reward. Several minutes later, Yuki was finally satisfied with his kiss from Kyouka. Kyouka tried to downplay the kiss, and they started discussing the dangers of the Shuuki creatures. She explained that even one Shuuki making it into Japan could cause numerous casualties. Kyouka's goal was to become the Supreme Commander and lead all the other commanders to exterminate the Shuuki once and for all. With Yuki's newfound power and courage, she believed she had a chance to achieve it. She invited Yuki to work with her and her team. Yuki was happy to receive the invitation but admitted that he wasn't exceptional in academics or sports. The only thing he was genuinely good at was cleaning. However, Kyouka appreciated men who could cook and clean, and she admired his bravery in protecting the little girl despite the overwhelming odds. She believed that kind of courage was invaluable in their line of work, and she considered him a great person. Yuki agreed to be her slave if it meant he could become a hero and participate in meaningful activities. Plus, he looked forward to receiving cultural rewards from Kyouka after each mission. Kyouka took Yuki to the head office of her defense force, where he had anticipated becoming an official member. However, he learned that men were not allowed to join the defense force. Instead, he was assigned the role of caretaker for the team, essentially becoming their janitor. The girls had mixed reactions to having a male presence, but they had no reservations about delegating their work to him. After finishing his cleaning duties, Yuki looks around and feels something's off about the place. It's not as nice as he thought. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a Shuuki, a kind of monster, tries to jump him. But Yuki's lucky. He's got this barrier that blocks the Shuuki's attack. Just in time, Ni shows up to make sure Yuki is okay. She tells him that they're in a part of Mato that's known for bad luck, especially the southwest area where they are. In Mato, there's a bigger chance of bumping into Shuukis than in other parts. Mato isn't your ordinary place. It's like a different world as big as Tokyo, split into 8 parts. Each part has its own team to fight off demons. Mi thinks of herself as Yuki's teacher, but Yuki finds it weird to have a kid as his boss. Yuuki tries to put that thought aside when he notices a Shuuki just hanging around. It's awkward. Ni tells him it's not a big deal, just a small Shuuki, and they should ignore it. But Himari doesn't think the same. She gets all action hero and starts shooting at the Shuuki with her Gatling gun like she's in a video game. This makes Yuuki worried because they almost got caught in the crossfire. Himari, however, is like, if I wanted to hit you, you'd be full of bullets by now. Then, she tells Yuuki to start making dinner, and reminds him he's there because Kyouka asked him to be. Yuuki starts thinking how tough it is to be a caretaker, and feels like someone might be watching them. That night, Yuki's cooking skills are the talk of the dorm. Everyone's loving his dishes, even the usually grumpy Himari, who's asking for seconds. Yuki's feeling pretty awesome with all the praise, and he stays positive even when they remind him about his other jobs. He gets back to work, but deep down, he remembers his dream of being a hero, not just a handyman. Yuki's kinda bummed about doing chores all day and shares his feelings, but Kyouka tells him she'll call him for battle when needed. She wants him to keep up with the housework for now. When Yuuki tries to stand up for himself, Himari jokingly threatens to chop off his head. Kyouka knows having a guy as a caretaker might be weird for some, but Yuki's a cleaning pro and crucial for her powers. She asks everyone to be kind to Yuuki and jokingly warns him about stepping out of line. That night, Shushu, who can shrink herself, mistakenly thinks Yuki's peeping on the girls. She threatens to tell the boss and even snaps a photo as evidence. Shushu's been watching Yuuki because she's curious about him. Yuuki tries to explain he was just cleaning, but Shushu's not buying it. Yuuki figures she's after blackmail, but Shushu's just stirring up drama for fun. She wants Yuuki to be her personal helper. Yuuki ends up cleaning her room, but fails to delete the photo. Shushu then makes him do her laundry, snapping another tricky photo. Yuki's feeling down, thinking he's being bullied, when he sees Kyouka and Himari training outside. Suddenly, a Shuuki shows up, and Kyouka takes this chance to teach Himari some moves. She totally wipes out this monster, leaving Yuuki and Himari in awe. Yuki's mind blown by Kyouka's power, and realizes he never wants to upset her. Ni pops in, saying she'll be staying with Himari for a meeting, so Yuki's left to watch over the dorm with Shushu. That evening, Shushu demands a massage from Yuuki. She opens up about growing up fatherless, and coming to Mato for adventure, even if it's dangerous. They end up playing video games, and Yuuki, feeling confident, bets he'll win. But Yuuki keeps losing, and even loses his shirt in the process. Just as they're in the middle of their games, a giant Shuuki attacks the barrier. Yuuki thinks they should avoid it, but Shushu reveals her power to grow huge. The two of them rush outside to face the Shuuki. Yuuki is doing his best to keep up, but the situation quickly escalates as giant monsters prepare to fight. However, Shushu effortlessly grabs and slams it into the ground, displaying her immense strength. Yuuki watches in awe as Shushu sends the monster soaring, then punches it down and crushes it under her feet. Exhausted from her gigantic form, Shushu shrinks back to a more manageable size. But her victory is short-lived. Another massive, blob-like monster attacks her, merging with more Shuukis to grow even larger. Shushu realizes the danger and attempts to grow bigger to end the fight, but something goes wrong, and her powers fail. The monster sees this opportunity, capturing Shushu and landing a heavy punch. Yuuki, feeling powerless, can only watch as the giant monster gains the upper hand. He desperately wishes he could transform, but without Kyouka, it seems impossible. Then he remembers how he transformed when he touched Kyouka's hand with his lips. In a flash of inspiration, Yuuki races to the laundry room, attempting to initiate his transformation by kissing Kyouka's glove. Although it partially works, he knows he needs a stronger reaction. Desperate, he tries her shirt, transforming his foot, and eventually finds her boots. He hesitates, questioning the implications of his actions. Meanwhile, Shushu is struggling in the battle, her body nearing its limit. Yuuki, now partially transformed, rushes to her aid, determined to make a difference. Shushu manages to immobilize the monster, presenting Yuuki with an opportunity. With a mighty kick, Yuuki obliterates the monster's head, turning the tide of the battle. Shushu is concerned about Yuki's recklessness, fighting at half strength, but Yuuki was motivated by her earlier taunts. After the fight, Kyouka tends to Yuki's injury, a consequence of his forced transformation. The others tease him for his brief combat stint, but Yuuki defends himself, acknowledging his inexperience with his powers. He wonders about repairing the barrier, but Kyouka explains that barriers around important areas have self-repairing abilities, as long as the damage isn't too severe. Yuuki comes to a realization. He connects the dots to an earlier Shuuki attack, understanding more about what happened. Meanwhile, Kyouka is busy tending to Yuki's back. The process is excruciating, and Yuuki can't help but wonder if this painful treatment is his reward for defending the dorm. Kyouka, not one to mince words, reprimands Shushu for underestimating their enemy. As a consequence, she orders Shushu to assist Yuuki with his chores. However, once they're alone, Shushu reveals her trump card, more incriminating photos of Yuuki. She declares that she'll continue to be his boss, leaving Yuuki to ponder over his increasingly complicated predicament, and if he'll ever be free from her control. In another dorm, a barrier is shattered, signaling trouble. Another Demon Force team arrives on the scene, quickly assessing the situation. One of them instructs the others to inform their commander of this development. Meanwhile, a girl from the team braces herself for battle, only to realize that her opponent is no ordinary Shuuki. The monster effortlessly bypasses her attack, capturing the two fleeing members. The beast then reveals its true form, throwing the first girl off balance. As she faces imminent danger, a mysterious lady appears, commanding the Shuuki to halt its actions. The lady, exuding authority and mystery, mounts the Shuuki. She reveals her awareness of Yuki's presence in Mato and expresses her intention to visit him. The scene shifts to Yamagata, where Kyouka goes to handle some paperwork, asking Yuuki to wait for her outside. Yuuki, waiting outside, is surprised they used the 5th Squad's gateway to get to Yamagata, noting it only took 20 minutes to travel there. When Kyouka returns, Yuuki is captivated by her casual attire, but keeps his admiration to himself, expressing relief to be back in the real world. Kyouka suggests enjoying the fresh air while they can, as breaks are rare for them, and takes him somewhere. As they walk, Yuuki admires Kyouka's beauty and wonders where they are headed. Kyouka doesn't respond but continues leading the way, with Yuuki following. Meanwhile, Shushu is searching for Yuuki in the dorms. Ni informs her that Yuuki left with the commander earlier, and Himari had taken them to the Yamagata passage during her patrol. Realizing the date, Shushu figures out where Kyouka has taken Yuuki. The scene then moves to Yuuki and Kyouka at a cemetery. Kyouka recounts an incident at Mount Gassen in Oikawa, where dozens of Shuuki entered their world. She vividly remembers one powerful Shuuki with a single horn, which she calls Unicorn. The Demon Defense Force eliminated all the Shuuki that day, but Kyouka discovered the Unicorn escaped back to Mato. She expresses her determination to settle the score with Unicorn and prepares Yuuki for the inevitable confrontation. Kyouka brings Yuuki to the cemetery to honor those who died and to reaffirm her vow for vengeance. As they plan to return to Mato, Yuuki spots a cafe and suggests taking a break, having heard about the cafe's famous parfaits. Kyouka, however, insists that returning to Mato is more pressing. Yuuki convinces Kyouka to visit a cafe by showing her a picture of a parfait. Kyouka agrees but wants to make it quick. At the cafe, Kyouka notes Yuki's assertiveness, a trait she hadn't expected from him. Yuuki observes that Kyouka enjoys sweet things, but she's more focused on issues in Mato. Yuuki empathizes, sharing that he lost his sister in a Mato incident, and cautions Kyouka not to overexert herself in pursuit of vengeance. He reminds her of the importance of taking breaks to avoid burnout, a lesson she herself had emphasized. Kyouka concedes, recognizing Yuki's talent for persuasion. When their parfaits arrive, Kyouka finds it delicious. Yuuki, watching her smile, reminisces about happy times with his sister. He also enjoys his parfait, but their moment is interrupted by an emergency call from Mato. Responding to the call, Kyouka transforms with Yuki's help and they quickly head back to the Demon Defense Force. Once at the dorms, Kyouka changes into her uniform with assistance from Yuuki, who playfully questions if this is a reward for his abilities. Kyouka affirms, implying she wouldn't ask otherwise. They then join Himari for a briefing. Himari reports a new discovery, a crater-like formation 21 kilometers south, teeming with Shuuki. Mei confirms the Shuuki are confined to the crater and not leaving. Despite the interruption to Kyouka's day off, she prioritizes the mission. The team prepares to set out, with Kyouka utilizing Yuki's speed for transportation. Shushu is impressed by Yuki's speed, but Himari dismisses it, saying he's just a wild animal. Kyouka and Yuuki are the first to arrive at the scene with the Shuuki. Yuuki suggests they start clearing them out, but Kyouka advises patience, planning to use their squad's teamwork for the task. Himari transforms her hand into a gun to attack the Shuuki, and Shushu grows into a giant for the battle. Kyouka comments that merging the Shuuki into one would make them easier to defeat, and Yuuki agrees, waiting for their chance to shine. Kyouka believes their simplistic fighting style makes the Shuuki easy to beat with their strategy. Suddenly, someone attacks Shushu with a mysterious power, knocking her down. Yuuki and Kyouka spot Unicorn, who then targets Himari. Himari dodges the attack, and a girl riding Unicorn declares she's joining the fight, surprising everyone with her ability to talk. The girl and Himari exchange beam attacks, and Kyouka confronts the girl on Unicorn. Yuuki suspects she's linked to the destruction of Kyouka's hometown. Kyouka clarifies the girl isn't a Shuuki and asks her identity. The girl claims she's the Demon Defense Force's archenemy and inquires about her handsome younger brother. As Yuuki and Kyouka engage Unicorn and the girl in battle, she reminisces about her brother's transformation from a devoted follower to a rascal as they grew up. The girl overpowers Yuuki and Kyouka, fondly recalling disciplining her brother. Yuuki wonders if the girl is a Shuuki or something else entirely, noting she's unlike the others. She's about to reveal her brother's name when interrupted by a giant Shuuki, which she defeats with a deadly glare, reminding Yuuki of his sister. Kyouka suspects the girl might be their supreme commander, but the girl dismisses her knowledge of Mato. Their fight continues, with the girl using her beam attack to distract and capture Yuuki. Upon examining Yuuki closely, the girl shows surprise. Kyouka seizes the moment to free Yuuki and injure the girl, who then attempts to flee. Kyouka is furious after the encounter with the girl on the unicorn and vows to inflict the same fate on her that she did to the villagers. However, she refrains from pursuing her when she sees Yuuki defending their squad from the remaining Shuuki. Kyouka decides to assist Yuuki, and then calls for a retreat, reflecting on how her anger almost cost her squad members their lives. They return to the dorms, where it's revealed that Himari and Shushu have only sustained light injury and will fully recover. Back at the dorms, Kyouka steps over Yuuki and expresses disbelief at the bizarre rewards produced by Yuuki's conscience. Yuuki admits that his own psyche's demands are starting to scare him too. Kyouka mentions she has many questions and comments about their last battle. Yuuki, in turn, has something to report but is hesitant due to their current situation. Kyouka urges him to speak, anticipating that the reward session isn't ending anytime soon. Yuuki apologizes for letting the unicorn escape. Kyouka reassures him that saving their squad mates was more important and thanks him, although Yuuki notes her peculiar way of showing appreciation. Kyouka gets annoyed, reminding Yuuki that this is what his subconscious desires. Kyouka speculates that the humanoid riding the unicorn might be a new type of Shuuki, and is surprised that a Shuuki can speak their language. Yuuki adds that the new species resembled his sister and reacted strangely upon seeing his face, mentioning a search for her little brother. Kyouka suggests that the mention of a little brother might have triggered Yuuki's memories of his sister, noting that the Shuuki also claimed her brother was handsome. Yuuki doubts the description fits him, and Kyouka points out that no one has ever heard of a human becoming a Shuuki. She believes they'll encounter them again, as they won't stop their pursuit. Later, Yuuki is cooking and ponders why the Shuuki, if it is his sister, would attack the Demon Defense Force and how she survived till now. Ni interrupts his thoughts, reminding him that his food is boiling over. After turning off the stove, Ni asks Yuuki to come down, saying she has something to tell him as his superior. She acknowledges Yuuki's efforts in the recent battle and offers to take care of dinner, noting that he must be exhausted. Yuuki graciously thanks Ni but insists on cooking himself, asking her to set the plates. While preparing the meal, Yuuki contemplates confirming if the Shuuki they encountered is his sister during their next meeting. The scene shifts to another humanoid Shuuki named Ni, who scolds Ayaba for her actions earlier in the day. Ayaba admits she was caught off guard. Koko, another character, heals Ayaba's injuries, and Ayaba thanks her. Ayaba reflects on the encounter with the Demon Defense Force, convinced the Shuuki she saw with them was Yuuki. She is puzzled about how Yuuki ended up in his current state. Meanwhile, Yuuki is taking a bath, mulling over his recent battle with the one-horned Shuuki. Shushu unexpectedly joins him in the bath, expressing her gratitude for Yuuki saving her. She offers to wash his back but warns him not to turn around as she is naked. Yuuki initially suspects Shushu is teasing him and might be wearing a swimsuit. Deciding to catch her bluff, he turns around, only to realize Shushu is indeed naked. Embarrassed, Yuuki rushes out of the bath. Shushu finds the situation exhilarating, her heart racing from Yuuki seeing her nude. As Yuuki moves to the changing area, he runs into Himari, who is about to bathe. Himari becomes furious at his presence and chases him with her hand transformed into a chainsaw. Yuuki tries to explain he used the occupied sign, but Himari argues he should have specified that a boy was in the bath. As she attempts to attack Yuuki, girls from the 6th Squad, led by Tenka Azumo, arrive. Tenka, who gets up close and personal with Yuuki, comments that he must be the slave she's heard about. She asks him to fetch Kyouka for her, indicating her awareness of Yuuki's role within the squad. When everyone gathered, Izumo praised Kyouka for having a skilled coffee-making slave. They received a message from the Supreme Commander about the dangerous humanoid Shuuki appearing, so Azuma came to discuss it. Normally, each squadron acted independently, but now the Demon Defense Force would work more closely together. Azuma, however, was quite rude. She mocked Himari for fainting during the battle against the humanoid and called her a coward. Azuma even criticized her for tarnishing their family's reputation and urged her to give up on her dreams and come home. In reality, Izumo pointed out that the humanoid Shuuki was actually quite powerful, which Kyouka agreed with. That's why they had been ordered to work together. Azuma showed confidence in teaming up with Kyouka but expressed a lack of trust in Kyouka's team. She didn't mention any names but believed that someone would slow them down. Kyouka came up with an idea and suggested they assess each other's strengths through an inter-squad model exhibition match. This surprised everyone, and Yuki initially thought it was a sports match, but Nate corrected him, explaining that it was a contest of strength and skill between squadrons. Kyouka preferred a one-on-one combat format, and Izumo agreed. Izuma needed some time to make preparations, so they left to get ready. Himari then asked Kyouka for help in preparing for the match. Kyouka warned her that it wouldn't be easy, but Himari was determined to do whatever it took to win. Kyouka agreed and encouraged her to start training right away. Himari turned to Yuki and revealed that their agreement meant Yuki would be her slave now. After enjoying Yuki's cooking, he mentioned that he used chicken fat as a secret ingredient. Himari praised him as a great slave, and Yuki wondered how it all happened. The answer was simple. It was for the model exhibition, and Himari was determined to win. Kyouka knew that Azuma's attitude had bothered Himari, so this match was an opportunity for Himari to teach her a lesson. As they traveled for training, Yuki was still puzzled about becoming Himari's slave. Himari then revealed that her ability to transform parts of her body into weapons wasn't her main power. She showed Yuki her phone, which looked like some kind of trading card game. Himari explained that her ability was called learning, meaning she could learn other people's abilities and use them herself. Yuki pointed out how overpowered that was, and Himari mentioned that she could simply select a person's ability on her phone and use it. She currently had the commander's ability selected, so she could use Kyouka's power. Yuki wondered if Himari knew all the details of Kyouka's ability, but Himari only knew that it was physically demanding. Himari thought it meant she would have to take over cleaning and laundry, but she didn't mind doing that stuff as long as she beat her sister. Just then, Shuuki appeared, and Himari had Yuki transform. Yuki reminded her that he had already warned her, and he transformed, but this time, it was different. This time, he had a different shape compared to when the commander did it, and Demon Yuki was much faster. He realized he could move at lightning speed in this form, even faster than Kyouka. The downside was that he wasn't as strong, but he decided to make the most of what he had. Yuki used his incredible speed and unleashed a rapid flurry of punches to defeat Shuuki. Himari was amazed and became confident that Yuki could help her defeat her sister. After Yuki finished dealing with Shuuki, he wondered why Himari had chosen this ability out of all the ones she could have picked. Himari explained that it was because this gave Yuki a chance to be useful. She started to tell him he should be grateful, but then she discovered the price for using Kyouka's ability. After Yuki was rewarded for his efforts, he suggested that Himari should consider using a different ability. Himari explained that she would if she could, but her learning power had a compatibility issue. It degraded the quality of most abilities to the point where they became useless. For instance, if she used Shushu's growing ability, only her nose would grow by an inch. Yuki reminded her of the price for using Kyouka's ability, but Himari accepted it. Yuki wanted to understand why she was so desperate to defeat her sister, so she shared a bit of her family history. She was born into a very influential family, known for their major achievements in Mato. All her older sisters were successful, so there were high expectations for Himari. However, she often pushed herself too hard before important events and got injured or fell ill due to nerves. She had never achieved any significant results, and Yuki could relate to her struggles. Her power's weakness was also well known, and she would often get teased when she couldn't keep up with her sisters. This was her first opportunity, since cutting ties with her family, to prove them wrong about her ability. Himari demanded Yuki's cooperation, and he reflected on how challenging it was to help someone who couldn't even ask politely. Himari shares her ultimate goal with Yuki. She wants to become a hero like their commander and hopes that defeating Azuma will help her discover a new side of herself. She believes that a finishing move is essential for their fight. Yuki realizes that he has been fighting recklessly without any strategy. He begins to think about his own reasons for wanting to become stronger, and wonders if helping Himari might lead to a new path for him. He agrees to assist her, acknowledging that he is her slave. Himari explains that her sister's power is called Golden Hour, allowing her to control time by freezing or rewinding it. Yuki, once confident, now feels worried about their chances. Meanwhile, Azuma can sense that her sister is talking about her, and is determined to put Himari in her place during the model exhibition. During practice, Himari reveals a weakness in Azuma's power. It consumes energy, and she can become tired if she uses it too much. Yuki points out that Azuma's ability to use it multiple times is still a significant challenge, but there is more to consider. Himari explains that Azuma uses a strange pose to trigger her ability, which is like a routine that's supposed to make her skills better. Hearing this, Yuuki suggests using his incredible speed for their finishing move. Himari agrees and plans to perform an ultra-fast maneuver that won't give Azuma any time to freeze or rewind time. It needs to be forceful enough to knock Azuma out of the fight completely. They start practicing, and Yuuki attempts a swift step forward followed by a head punch, but it needs refining into a deadly, unavoidable blow. Himari has Yuuki focus all his strength into one part of his body, so he chooses his legs, making them huge. Suddenly, Shuuki's appear, providing them with practice targets. Yuuki's massive legs make him even faster, but his first attempt at the special move doesn't go smoothly. After defeating all the Shuukis, Yuuki realizes he overdid it and exhausted his legs, losing his arm strength in the process. Himari believes he needs to keep experimenting to perfect the technique and rewards him with a pat on the head. Kyouka arrives at their next training session and is amazed by Yuuki's transformation. She compliments Himari's idea for a finishing move but questions why Himari is watching from a distance. Kyouka reminds her that she needs to control her slave more actively and instructs her to make her proud as she leaves. Himari takes Kyouka's words to heart and decides to ride Yuuki during the exhibition match, realizing that Kyouka's ability requires her to control her slave directly rather than just coaching from afar. Himari instructs Yuuki to focus his strength on his legs, and he feels a surge of power. She commands him to crush the first Shuuki they see, and he effortlessly destroys it. Yuuki is amazed by his newfound strength, and they realize they've found the perfect finishing move they were looking for. However, Yuuki is unsure if he can replicate it. They practice on more Shuuki dummies, and Yuuki becomes extremely tired after defeating them all. He receives a reward, determined to master this new technique for the future. A training montage shows Yuuki getting stronger over time. On the day of the exhibition match, Azuma and the others arrive, and Azuma senses that Himari has something planned but tries to sow doubt in her mind. Yuuki arrives to boost Himari's confidence and reminds her of their hard training. Himari regains her confidence and promises victory. They all write their names down for Gina to create a barrier for the match. Gina is excited to witness the Demon Defense Force's powers and believes Peach's grant power is linked to a person's nature and knowledge. She creates a barrier that can withstand 1,000 Shuuki and will heal any injuries during combat. Gina will act as the referee. Yuuki notices Gina's enthusiasm for the Demon Defense Force, but also her dislike for men. Mi's role is to cheer for her teammates, as she is a non-fighter. The first round of the match is between Himari and Azuma. The rules are simple. Whoever gives up or gets knocked out first loses, and injuries will be healed. Azuma plans to bring Himari back home when she wins, but Himari asserts that she's a different person now. The match begins, and Azuma warns her sister, but Yuuki's lightning-fast attack leaves her gasping for air. Azuma rewinds time by 5 seconds to the start of the match, hoping to catch Himari off guard. However, Himari notices that Azuma is starting to feel tired from using her time manipulation power. But Himari and Yuuki had a backup plan in case their first attack didn't work. Azuma, however, is confident that she can prove the typical belief that older sisters are always superior to younger sisters. Azuma then activates her time manipulating ability, Prime Time, once more. Before the duel between Himari and Yachiho, Himari had asked Sahara if her sister had prepared for the match. Sahara explained that Yachiho was in good spirits and didn't seem to have any special preparations. Himari felt irritated, but Shushu assured her that being underestimated was an advantage. In the current moment, after making Yachiho use her time reversal ability early in the match, Himari and Yuuki changed their strategy. Himari knows her sister plans to use a weapon to win. Yachiho grows confident, thinking Himari is an easy target as she leaps into the air, planning to use her time freezing power when Himari gets closer. However, Himari has a plan. Sensing the right moment, she instructs Yuuki to increase his speed, causing them to fall rapidly and catch Yachiho off guard. They deliver another blow, surprising Yachiho. In response, Yachiho uses her ability to rewind time, going back to before she received the attack. In that moment, Yachiho thinks she can freeze time and attack, expecting them to be within her reach. But when she freezes everything for 5 seconds, she sees Himari has changed tactics and is now out of reach. Yachiho realizes her sister intentionally altered her strategy, and she gets tired again, confirming Himari's plan. Himari signals Yuuki to move to the next step. He starts circling the field so fast that Yachiho can't keep up, getting confused. Yuuki notices Himari's desperation to defeat her sister to become a hero. Understanding her desire, he pushes himself to become even faster. The 7th Squadron celebrates the duo's good performance, while Yachiho tries to hit them but can't keep up with their speed, becoming increasingly unbalanced, just as planned. The 6th Squadron notices that Himari and Yuuki are well prepared for the competition. Tanka is surprised to see Yuuki serving another girl, thinking it was only for Uzen. He's amazed by Yuki's ability to dedicate himself to a new master. Sahara is concerned about Yachio. Himari realizes that Yuki is putting in more effort than expected, planning to apologize later for the difficulty. Despite the challenges, it motivates Himari to defeat her sister, ensuring their efforts don't go in vain. She observes that they can predict when Yachio will activate her power based on her position. The match depends on their location, giving Himari and Yuki the choice to attack or retreat. Yachio's tiredness is a clear signal of when she controls time. The plan is simple: change tactics whenever she activates her ability, keeping this strategy until she gets exhausted. With Yachio using her power multiple times, there's likely very little energy left for her to control time. Yachio, understanding Himari's plan, decided to use it against her, making her life challenging with the hope that it would force her to return home. In a crucial moment, Himari realizes her sister is about to freeze time again, thinking she's at a safe distance, and not intending to retreat. However, she's unaware that Yachio had enhanced her ability to freeze time for 10 seconds, twice as long as Himari anticipated. With this advantage, Yachio brought Himari and Yuki within her reach, launching several attacks that seriously injured both as soon as time returned to normal. The audience was confused, struggling to understand what happened. Yachio explained that she could double her time control by performing her ultimate pose, although it took a little longer to activate. Knowing that Himari would be confident at the distance she was, Yachio pointed out her sister's mistake, emphasizing her improved fighting ability. Yachio managed to turn the tables suddenly, making it difficult for the audience to keep up. Despite Nat's concerns, she and Shushu continued to cheer, hoping Himari would withstand the attack and keep fighting. Yachio, confident in her strategy, believed that Himari would eventually give up. She knew her sister couldn't switch to another ability mid-game because exiting a power like that incurred a cost, the reward owed to Yuki. This made it impossible for Himari to employ a different strategy. Yachio tells Himari that she was never truly prepared and advises her to give up, believing she cannot win. This leaves Himari in tears, feeling her efforts were in vain. Yuki intervenes, pointing out that Yachio is trying to intimidate her out of fear. He mentions that using the time-stopping ability for 10 seconds has clearly exhausted Yachio, making it unlikely for her to control time again. Realizing Yuki's insight, Himari decides not to give up when victory is within reach. She acknowledges Yuki's intelligence and eagerly mounts on him to continue the fight. The 7th Squadron celebrates their resurgence in the game. Yachio insists that Himari surrender to avoid embarrassment, as she can freeze time again and end the game. Himari refuses, stating that staying strong and fighting to the end is not a source of shame for her squadron. Yuki and Himari advance towards Yachio. Suddenly, a mysterious glow appears, obstructing Yachio's vision. Despite being unable to see, Yachio activates her ability to rewind 5 seconds and prepares to shoot. However, she realizes that only Yuki is in her sight, confused about where her sister went. In the fight's final moments, Yachio takes the chance to shoot at Yuki, who had returned to his human form. When time resumes, everyone is surprised to see Himari, who was lying on the ground, still standing. Yuki and Yachio, though wounded, fall to the ground. Despite her injuries, Himari stands, leading Jinna to declare her the winner. Her squadron celebrates the victory, and the commander acknowledges the well-planned strategy by Yuki and Himari using a flash and smoke from Yuki's reverse transformation for a surprise attack. While Sahara feels sad for the 6th Squadron's loss, Tenka suggests they can learn from their mistakes. Concern arises for Yuki's injury, but the commander reassures them that injuries within the match field can be healed. Later, Yuki wakes up to find Himari by his side, explaining that he had been unconscious after a potentially fatal wound. Jinna clarifies that her ability allows her to magically heal injuries sustained during a fight. Impressed by Jinna's rapid healing, Yuki grumbles about Himari's impatience, considering he was unconscious just a few seconds ago. After the intense fight, Yuki, now relaxed, feels incredibly thirsty. Himari helps him up and excitedly discusses the success of their strategy. Meanwhile, Yachio regains consciousness as Jinna heals her wounds. Yachio, reflecting on her life and previous perception of Himari as naive, stands up and acknowledges her sister's strength. She promises to treat Himari better and suggests that she return to the Azuma family. However, Himari refuses, stating that the 7th Squadron is her place, and there's nothing Yachio can do to convince her to go back home. Together, Himari and Yuki head to the dormitory for some water, leaving Yachio shocked by her sister's decision. Yachio finds comfort from the girls in her squadron, who understand her unique way of expressing love. Inside the dormitory, Himari and Yuki refresh themselves. Yuki prepares to get some water for himself when unexpectedly, Himari surprises him with a wet kiss, expressing her gratitude for his hard work. The unexpected moment of affection catches Yuki off guard, and they both realize it's Himari's way of rewarding him for his efforts. Meanwhile, Tenka explains to Yashio that it was the servant's first fight against a person, and because of that, even though he knew the wounds from the match would heal after the fight ended, he unconsciously held back his attacks because he could have dealt a fatal blow right at the beginning of the match, and thus her mistake was underestimating her opponent and allowing him time to recover instead of finishing the game off right away. Yachio admits she made a mistake in the way she fought, but Tenka observes that despite his mistakes, the way Yuuki put himself at risk, using himself as bait until the last second of the battle, makes him an exceptional servant. Outside, the girls notice that Himari was taking a while to return, and Shushu decides to go after her, explaining that she'll take the opportunity to quench her thirst too as she got tired from all the cheering she did for her friend. Before leaving, Uzen asks the girl not to drink too much water as she was next to fight and the match would start soon. So Shushu thinks she also wants to impress Yuuki with her ability and heads towards the kitchen, where the guy was having a warm moment with Himari. Between kisses, she explains that thanks to him, they both managed to defeat Yachiho and thanks him for it, making it clear that it wasn't part of the reward, because it's something she genuinely wanted to say to him. However, Sum starts kissing Yuuki, and he becomes a bit confused. The girl, however, states that the kissing part was no longer her choice and complains about having to reward him in that way. So they resume kissing, and Yuuki is worried someone might walk into the kitchen and catch them. Still, Himari assures him that no one would arrive, unaware that Shushu was secretly observing the situation, finally understanding what the commander meant by her ability being physically demanding. Himari takes the opportunity to apologize for underestimating Yuuki just because he's a guy. This makes Yuuki nervous, and he thanks the girl, addressing her as Miss. Himari, however, says that being so formal at that moment makes things even weirder. As they continue kissing outside, Yachio apologizes for losing her match, leaving the victory of their squad in Sahara's hands, who was calm about facing Shushu. However, none of the girls from the Demon Defense Force notice that near the match field, on top of one of the mountains, there are 3 humanoid Shuuki. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for more anime recaps.